I hope everybody's having a great night. Thank you so much for your patience. Instagram, LinkedIn, all of the spaces. Thank you. We are excited about going live tonight and having this very timely conversation, and we're not going to let the technical
Mhm.
difficulties hold us back.
Yeah, so we are good to go. Um, all right, y'all. Hello to everyone. For those of y'all who are watching from different spaces, whether you're on my platform or Q's, I just want to say hello, good evening. We're excited to talk with you tonight. For those of y'all who are just like, who are you? For those of you who just recently followed me from all the hoopla, because we're gonna get into that. I know some of y'all are here because you want to talk about deconstruction and faith and all of that, and we're gonna get to all of that. But I really wanted to have this important conversation with the beautiful lady sitting right next to me, Miss Q Nicole. Um, First of all, I want y'all to tag somebody, tell them to join because we're gonna have a conversation tonight. Okay, we're gonna get into it. If you are someone who is in the wellness space, if you are the person in your life that shows up for everyone, this is the conversation for you. If you're a therapist like me, this is the conversation for you. So, my name is Vernique Esther. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I specialize in emotional, relational, and religious trauma. I support high achieving women, especially and couples, to have healthy and authentic love lives, as well as lives in general, to ensure that you have a relationship with yourself that overflows into everything else in your life. I also work in employee wellness and support organizations in having healthy work culture as both a consultant and a clinical director. And none of that really matters that much because the person that I feel like is the most important person here is Miss Q Nicole sitting next to me. I want you to introduce yourself to these folks, but I first want to say that I had the pleasure of meeting Nicole like maybe 5 years ago. It's like early, like, into the pandemic. And her story was so inspiring. Her brilliance is like out of this world, so much so that this lady almost had me start a new business. Okay. And I still will, trust me. But please, Nicole, founder of WH Farms Co., please introduce yourself to everyone.
Absolutely. So, first of all, right back at you. Thank you so much for your beauty, brilliance, and light, and for you following your profession and path that helps to really illuminate others. Shout out to Soleil Therapy. Hello. My name is Q Nicole, and I am the CEO and founder of WH Farms Co. One of the things that I'm really excited about is being able to really advance conversations around the botanical wisdom in hemp. As a matter of fact, so passionate that I want to make sure that you've invited me to your live on Instagram through WH Farms Co.
Yep.
If you can invite me so that I can join, I want to make sure that the WH Farms Co. community has an opportunity to see this on Instagram right now. So we are, when I was thinking earlier as it relates to like what I could say about myself, and guys, we're hoping that this won't cause any sort of audio challenges, but we believe that it won't. Are you,
Yeah. I
let's,
think can y'all drop in the chat if you can hear us? I'm not sure if on my computer it'll let me add WH Farms, but I'm gonna keep working on it.
give me 1 second. I'm going to request to join your
Mhm.
live. It doesn't allow me to do that.
Okay.
So we'll figure out how to make that happen because I did see it like 2 seconds ago and then it went away. So we can try that again. Okay, Rashidia said that she can
Hey.
hear and see. Okay, awesome. So we're just gonna keep going with it. So a bit about me. I am, I'm like most people. You get to a certain state in life and you have to really reconcile with brokenness that you have to put back together, whether it's stemming from childhood trauma, whether it's stemming from the disappointment of what you thought life would be, whether it's stemming from things that you can't control, that happened to you that you didn't ask for, or
Right.
any of the other things. I'm grateful for being able to be a visionary. I'm grateful. I feel like I've always operated or desired to operate as a vessel and really operate
Mhm.
in a space where I'm able to provide that love and light in the environments that I occupy. I'm highly driven, very
Mhm.
oriented, results oriented. And that's because I've had to put my pieces back together, right? And when doing
Mhm.
so, you kind of recognize that putting one foot in front of the other and being willing to go through something is the only way to actually get through it. And I am one of those, I would say a girl's, but I also say a woman's woman. Like, I love seeing women win. I love seeing women expand. I love seeing women grow. I love when we are genuinely safe spaces for one another. And so when I found myself going through my life breakdown, after the death of my father, dealing with grief and anxiety that came from that, I found myself looking for a pathway to healing that didn't include prescriptions. I was
Mhm.
going to therapy. The first thing that they offered was a combination of prescription and talk therapy opportunities. But I was learning more about medicinal cannabis, specifically hemp derived CBD. A lot of the veterans were talking about how it was helping them with trauma, helping
Mhm.
them with anxiety. And so I was a dare kid when I was in high school, and going through life. It was never anything that I chose as a recreational option. But for medicinal purposes, it was definitely plants over pills. As soon as they started to tell me that pills were the option, I'm like, oh no, we'll try plants first. And so I tried, hemp, and I tried hemp derived CBD drops in my coffee. I ended up evolving into other types of products and was absolutely stunned at how it helped me to really soothe my nervous system and help me to kind of compartmentalize my thoughts, slow down my anxiety. Anyone who deals with any sort of challenges, especially I was diagnosed with CPTSD. And so anyone who deals with those types of challenges know that most times things are coming in like a flood, like it's just overwhelming. And you feel like you can't slow it down and stop. And it becomes so overwhelming that it becomes extremely heavy and hard to just manage through normal day-to-day tasks. And so when I started, incorporating hemp into my daily routine and creating my morning rituals and my lifestyle rituals that included this phenomenal botanical wisdom, I became overwhelmingly shocked at how effective it was. And then I became angry simultaneously because the Beavis and Butthead conversation didn't apply, because I wasn't walking around feeling brain dead or that my brain cells were disappearing. All of that seemed to be a bit more stigma as opposed to reality. And so, because I'm very mission focused, I again believe in being a vessel for God. And I feel that God gave me this phenomenal vision to build this platform company that creates phenomenal consumer goods with hemp extract and variety of botanicals, where we bring forth the botanical wisdom through a variety of plants, primarily the industrial hemp that we grow on our farm, into consumer goods. Because the vision of my company and the vision that I have, that I feel was given to me, was to spread the plant medicinal magic of hemp worldwide, and to make sure that we were shifting the narrative, shifting the conversation, and more importantly, giving people tangible access to ritualistic opportunities that involved ancient herbs, so that we can get back to the basics, get back to what God gave us when he created the earth, and giving us access to the things that he gave us that are natural healing mechanisms and things to support our healing.
Yeah, first of all, that is what you call an introduction. Okay. Y'all hear me? Um, thank you so much. And because I am a clinician and I'm a therapist, I do want to go through a couple things that you mentioned, because some people might be like, wait a minute, right? So you mentioned that you had been diagnosed with CPTSD. For those of y'all who don't understand what that is, that's complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And so a lot of us learn about PTSD, and we learn about it through the lens of veterans and that kind of thing, people who have trauma that you feel like is justifiable. But first of all, PTSD is something that you can experience just through having a car accident, right? But when we talk about CPTSD, the complexity of post-traumatic stress disorder, it comes from having either repeated or like repeated and environmental impact and exposure to traumatic situations. So we're talking childhood trauma, we're talking about racial trauma, we're talking about systemic trauma, we're talking about religious trauma. right? And so a lot of us walk around and we are these high achievers. We are, the person that's on top of everything. We have eldest daughter syndrome or only daughter syndrome. And we think that the way we move is normal. While it's efficient, it could be a byproduct of CPTSD.
Yeah.
And so for somebody, and we're going to talk about this, by the way, for those of y'all who are tuning in right now, this is a 4-part series that we're doing in the month of May for Mental Health Awareness Month. I know that we're talking more about mental health, but what people don't realize is there is still stigma around it. That's why we have months like this, because some people are still scared to have these sorts of conversations. And a big part of why this conversation is important is we're talking about hemp medicinal ancestral healing, right? Using ancestral knowledge and wisdom, and activating that through hemp. And for you mentioned this too, and I want to circle back to it. You said I was a dare kid. Me too. Okay,
Yeah.
I was in Arizona. I lived in Arizona. We had a program called Get Out. It was that version of Dare. And baby, I absolutely was like, I will not do drugs.
I
Okay.
was a captain, honey. I did the whole assembly speech at the end.
Okay. So when you come from that world and then multiply that by those of us, especially Black and brown women who are of faith, who grew up in the church, especially in more restrictive religious environments, you're like, oh no, I cannot rely on something like hemp or CBD based products. And I want to talk about that, because when you say that we are going back to what God gave us as a form of wisdom and healing, I want to learn more about what does that mean for you, and for somebody that's already like, I don't know about that. What do you have to say as the leading expert in this field? What do you have to say about that?
Well, first of all, thank you for the breakdown of CPTSD, because I promise you, when I was diagnosed, I didn't tell many people, because the first thing I said was, I've never been to war. Like, what do you mean I have PTSD? Like, what is this about?
Right. And
Um,
honestly, you have emotionally.
Emotionally. So when I was a child, I was held at gunpoint by my father. And then a few years later, I found my brother dead at the age of, he was 7 and I was 9. And I was the person to discover his deceased body. And then I had to alert the family. So I kind of wore that heaviness as well. And then I also went through a series of other traumas, just being adjacent to what's known as that crack era, if you will, and how a lot of drugs, hit the community, especially Black and brown communities, and really destroyed families. And fortunately, my family wasn't destroyed from an addiction side, but the criminal justice system definitely tore our family apart, just through the punishment, if you will, of some of the acts of family members that I don't condone, but I definitely understand the trauma that comes along with that. And
Yeah.
so I kind of grew up in a space where I had to constantly create my own safety. And I think that the process of constantly having to ensure my own safety created a certain level of raised awareness that never gave me calm, that never gave me ease, because I always needed to scan for safety. That's what my therapist used to always
Yeah.
say, that because of your, condition and diagnosis, you are constantly scanning for safety in every environment that you're in, because you don't know what safety feels like. And it's something that I had to really go through a methodical process to retrain my nervous system, because you live with that level of disconnect from ease and disconnect from peace for so long. I mean, if it starts in childhood and it goes up into, let's say, young adulthood, your 20s and your 30s, that's where you get the implosion of challenges with health related issues like fibroids and those tumors that develop with women, or just overall, anxiety, the heaviness of it all. That's the thing about CPTSD, is that it is this extended period of being in an unsafe environment. It's like, it's not just the one triggering event, but then there's this series of this environment where you weren't able to remove yourself. I think a lot, and I have a lot of compassion for prisoners, people who go through the federal penitentiary system, and they get subjected to solitary confinement, and they are in very inhumane conditions in some of these prisons. And when they get released, communities typically are not prepared to deal with the mental health challenges that they're released with. And
Right.
so when it comes down to like my passion and my vision with this, with what we built with WH Farms Co. and what we continue to endeavor to do, it's because I understand that so many of us are living in a state where we have labeled it normal, but it's very far from what God intended for us.
Right.
And what I love about the science of the hemp plant has what's called phytocannabinoids. So these chemical compounds inside of the hemp plant that when, and these aren't available in hemp seed, so not in hemp seed oil, but in full blossomed hemp plant, the phytocannabinoids actually align with what we know as the endocannabinoid system in our body.
Oh,
And I
wow.
hope that you can hear me okay, because it seems like the train outside of my house just decided to
No,
come.
we can hear you just fine.
Okay, good. And so the endocannabinoid system is the series of receptors that govern everything from the actual the cadence, if you will, and the uses of our various organs and our nervous system and all of these various internal elements that's meant to create balance, that's meant to constitute homeostasis, which is what they taught us in school, is managed by this ECS or endocannabinoid system. We have it, pets have it, from horses to dogs to cats. And so when we introduce CBD and other cannabinoids to our body, specifically the cannabinoids that begin with C, so not THC as much because that provides more of a psychoactive response, but the non-psychoactive cannabinoids provides a phenomenal healing benefit because it almost allows us to reset. It's like when you go to therapy, I'm sure there have been clients that have come to you and you may have given them logical advice that the trauma that's trapped inside of their body can't really process yet. And so what I learned is that dropping those hemp drops inside of my coffee and using my after shower oil and all of these various rituals that I've started to create in my life, resurrecting the botanical wisdom of a plant that has more than 6,000 years of a track record of healing quality. When I started to reintroduce that to my lifestyle, it gave me a chance to recalibrate my nervous system, to deal with my internal environment, so that I then could impact my external environment in ways that would allow me to grow and be a bit more proactive about ensuring my own safety.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And there's a few other things that I want to point out in this, but before we go there, I want to even go back to something you said as far as like God's intention for us when it comes to safety, right? One of the things you said was that you constantly scan for safety, and we call that hypervigilance, right? When you're always on guard. And how many of us think that that's just being Black in America, being brown in America, being a woman in America? We think it's normal, but it's really not. Our nervous systems, meaning the whole part of your body that's connected to your brain and connects with all the rest of your body and your spinal cord, is wired to try to find ways to keep you safe and to keep you regulated. And when we are exposed to trauma long term in the way that you're describing with CPTSD, we develop these ways of being that keep us on high alert because our brain is like, I have to feel safe. I have to feel safe. I have to keep this person safe. And I can't feel safe if I don't look around, because last time when we didn't look around, we got caught slipping. Last time when we didn't do this happened. We like, your brain is trying to do a job. And when your system is activated chronically and constantly, it is hard for your brain to regulate. It is hard for your body to feel safe. It is hard for you to focus. Anytime I train on my framework called trauma languages, I talk about how you can be so stressed, so traumatized that you can't even think straight.
Yes.
Meaning day-to-day decision making, creativity, that business that you're working on and you keep getting stuck. That could be chronic. That could be chronic stress or CPTSD at work. So when we're talking about how God intended for your body to work, it's meant, you have all of these systems, which, my good sis Nicole, she knows all the important words and things, right, that she just shared. But your God created your body to properly respond to stress, but when we're inundated with it, as many of us are, sometimes you need a little bit of help. And when I was doing more research on WH Farms Co. and the work that you do, first of all, like, your website is a master class. Your website alone is a master
Shout
class.
out to our chief marketing officer.
I'm
She's
telling
on
you,
the
like, there's so much good content there. But I was really looking into, like, how why is this even important, right? Like, why does this matter? How does it support people? And before you even answer this, I want to say that not only have I tried your products years ago, I remember I used your scrub, and, like, just for joint pain alone, it was supportive, right? But even my own story and connection to CBD, and because some people are like, what the heck are you doing, Vernique? Like, why are you talking about this? Because I have been like a recipient of this kind of work, and I want us to stop being scared of things that are absolutely natural, right?
Yeah.
So for me, like, experiencing post-divorce, and we may talk about that later on in the series, but having experienced divorce, I remember I was having back-to-back panic attacks. I woke up and had panic attacks. I went to lunch during work and had panic attacks, and I was like, I gotta try something. I was scared of
Girl.
medication at the time, and for those of us who are of faith, we're like, well, we gotta just pray, Jesus is gonna fix it. Well, you know what? Jesus also gave, like, real life things that we can access in order to make ourselves well, right? And to experience wholeness and wellness. And,
Absolutely.
and in my own experience there, the only thing that stopped me from having multiple panic attacks a day was CBD. And I didn't have psychoactive effects, but it allowed my nervous system to calm down enough. And when me and you were talking about it, I'm like, oh, see, like, again, going back to your website, see, these hemp products are like a bridge. It gives you room
Yeah.
to get from here to healing. It
Yes.
allows your nervous
100%.
system to calm down enough. It's not a permanent fix. It's not, but if you allow your body, if you give your body enough room, it will start to repair itself,
It
right? A lot of us
supports
go
you. It
from
supports your healing.
it supports your healing.
Yeah.
So it's faith. It's also get a therapist, but it's also give your body and mind some room to do the work by using the things, like you said, that your body actually is already able to be connected with,
Yeah.
already recognizes and understands, in order to get you, like I said again, from here to healing. But you need
Yeah.
a bridge sometimes to get there.
Yeah, something that you just said that I want to come back to is sometimes you can be so stressed that you can't think. That
Yeah.
is where I had gotten when I was diagnosed with CPTSD. The brain fog was overwhelming. It was like, what am I supposed to be doing? Well, and then I was deep into entrepreneurship at the time. I was a licensed general contractor. I had just walked away from over a decade of a career in commercial real estate. I was building homes in Washington, D.C. under my own license. This is one of the
Wow.
most expensive real estate markets in the country.
Yes.
I had the responsibility of taking properties and delivering new renovated homes to families that would keep these homes for 15, 20, 30 plus years, pass them down to future generations. I had a team of people who worked for me that were not my gender. And so, because of that, they didn't have time for my emotions. And one thing I tell people on construction projects, there is no HR office. And so,
Hello.
there was no one, I'm the lead of the project. So there's no one for me to go talk to other than my therapist. And I also had to deal with the fact that I was in an environment where there was no compassion for my
Mhm.
emotion. But I needed to show up and perform every day because I needed to lead a team and finish projects. And I would be
Right.
overwhelmed. And it would take everything just to get out of the bed. And so I had gotten to a place in my life, especially as I started the therapy around it, where I just started to kind of rewrite what my vision in life would be. Because
Mm.
I just kind of came to a place where it's like, well, maybe I can't be as ambitious and reach certain heights that I thought. If I cry, I'm a Cancer, I'm a sensitive thug. So if you see a tear fall, just know
And
we
you
all
are.
right, okay? But I had really started to rewrite my script. I came out of high school and college just knowing like I want to take on the world.
Yeah.
But I kept feeling like I was trying to sprint through quicksand. And you can
Mm.
only imagine what that feels like. You're giving it all of your effort, but you can't go anywhere because between your ears, you can't make sense of why your ambition and your heart, your performance isn't really lining up.
Yeah.
And I got tired. What I love about this series and us doing it during Mental Health Awareness Month, because when I went through this was when, we were laughing about Britney Spears and her breakdown. This was like over 15, 20
Mm.
years, 17 years ago. We were laughing about all of the things that we saw our pop culture go through, pop culture celebrities go through. And my friends did the same. They didn't understand what I was going through. And so, in their ignorance, and in their inability to really add language to some of my condition, anxiety was not a conversation that we were having then. So, in their heightened ignorance, it was just kind of like, it was hurtful to be alone in this process of trying to figure it out. That's the reason why I'm very compassionate and empathetic toward people who deal with mental health challenges. Because if you see a person that has a cast on their leg and you know that they
Mhm.
can't walk, then if you know that you need to open the door for them so that you can help them get through because you can visually see their handicap, your nature, the kindness in your nature would naturally and humanly do that. But what we find is that people tend to have to dig a little bit deeper to be empathetic and compassionate towards someone who's dealing with a mental health challenge
Absolutely.
because you can't see it. And
Yeah.
so we have this quick, diagnosed society where it's just kind of like, oh, well, they must be this, or they must not have low, good self-esteem, or they must not have these other things. When in
Yeah.
reality, these people are fighting for their lives every day, just trying to show up so that they can keep moving their lives forward because they have to, because there's not a space for them to pause and heal because no one around them can see where they're broken. And
Yeah.
so that is what hemp did for me. It gave me a chance to create that pathway to support my healing by having this ritual around this botanical that was packed with so much of this medicinal wisdom that gave me the space to reconstruct myself without having to depend on society to help me do it. Because again, there's only now becoming more of an emphasis around conversations related to mental health. But when I think about, what women are going through throughout the country and how tired women are,
Come
think
on.
about how much women over decades and centuries have been burdened with shame and silencing and all of the restriction that comes along and is expected of our gender. How can we not have symptoms of an overstimulated nervous system? How
Right.
can, when you see a woman that's choosing to constantly work and constantly do something, and how can you not, we don't get the same compassion from our male counterparts that we used to, because they're thinking, oh, you want to be a man. No, maybe we don't know how to slow down because society hasn't given us the room to be able to do that. And so I find that as a woman, I had to kind of reclaim my own power. And this plant helped me do that. It helped me do it in a way that was discreet. What I love about what we create with WH Farms Co., and I got to shout out the company. We are a vertically integrated GMP and ISO certified botanical product development and manufacturing company. Our products are pharmaceutical grade, and what we offer are opportunities for people to access these amazing cannabinoids without having to smell like a pound. Because everybody
Okay.
knows that there's such a stigma against the plant that if you ever show up smelling like it, immediately it will be assumed that you're into criminal activity, and there's not a recognition of the fact that there's actually therapeutic benefits with this plant. And so we think of more functional consumer goods that we create, like shower products and bath products and body care products that people can use on a daily basis that are absolutely well fragranced, that smell amazing. They're proprietary formulations and blends, and it gives us an opportunity to reclaim what we need, as you shared, that bridge toward healing, so that we can do it in real time in the presence of individuals without having to engage their permission to do what's needed for our own well-being.
And I need to, I have to do a little bit of translation because again, you go off the dome, and I love it. So what she said was they are certified. Okay. What she said is this is certified. This is medical grade, like okay, high level potency, but without the psychoactive effects. And this is like real science backed
That's
and
right.
psychologically sound. So it ain't Ray Ray and Pookie what you picking up at the corner store, the
You
CBD
can't
that's
find
good
us at
for
the corner
there.
store.
It's not, this is real, like tested, try. And I want you to talk about even like the extent to which your products are well manufactured, because I've had the privilege of hearing that, and I want in the time that's left for us to talk about that as well. But again, this is like real. This is not some like cute little thing that you can find, like I said, at the gas station. Like
Oh.
these are, this is certified. Okay.
Yeah, and we actually are the farm. So, first and foremost, I'm an actual USDA licensed hemp cultivator. So, we actually cultivate on a 50-acre farm. Our farm was cleared by hand by freed slaves and the
Wow.
indigenous community in eastern North Carolina. So, we grow on ancestral indigenous land. And the reason why that's so powerful is because this is a representation of cultures coming together, diversity being celebrated, group economics happening in real time to bring cultures and communities together to help create economic advancement during a time where they both were being stripped of the best of what they had to offer. The Tuscaroraans, which is the indigenous community that actually occupied the land that we grow on, their name means hemp gatherer, and they were actually cultivating and exporting hemp before English settlement. And so, as a company, we are very proud to resurrect that legacy and what that means in terms of our process from cultivating, being USDA licensed, following organic cultivation practices, but then working with groups of scientists to create science-backed formulations. We're very intentional about making sure that what we formulate in terms of our body care products actually translate to the intended outcome that clients and customers can look for. We are a B2B company. We
Mhm.
help businesses and brands launch and expand their own product line through our white label services. And the reason why we do that is because my original goal was to help, well, the vision is to help spread the medicinal magic of hemp worldwide. But we don't want to do that just customer by customer. We want to do that business by business so that those businesses can reach hundreds, thousands, millions of customers worldwide, and we provide them with the quality formulation and manufacturing standards that we put inside of our bottles, our jars, and our packaging. And why that's so important to me is because when we first started this business, it was about access, making sure that businesses and brands who didn't have millions of dollars to get a cannabis license to cultivate had an opportunity to get quality finished goods that they can still sell in the marketplace, because hemp derived CBD had more federal opportunities than psychoactive THC products. And quite frankly, I felt that there were more people who were interested in the medicinal quality of the plant and not really interested in being high. Like, my
Right.
mother doesn't care to be high, but my
And
mother wants
Vernique don't care to be high.
right, but my mother wants to sleep every night. Like, she wants
Right.
to rest well. When we think about the Christian community and how so many ailments that stack upon each other, and when our elderly reach certain ages, they're not just dealing with, joint pains that came from nowhere. It's a byproduct of diabetes, a byproduct of gout. It's a byproduct of the body being so out of whack for so long that
Yeah.
we haven't heard or listened to, or we've normalized the sirens that now they're producing other ailments. That's not the way God intended for us to live. And so, my vision and the vision that my phenomenal team, or our phenomenal team with WH Farms Co. has been able to help really execute, is presenting the products and the message and the information so that in real time we're destigmatizing, we're educating, and we're equipping businesses and brands with access to these products so that we can get them out to not just women but men. Because let's talk about men's mental health. We're watching a true breakdown across a gender that we are being very compelled to pay attention to, because we recognize that the thought process of just being strong and shouldering through, it's not working anymore. We have
Right.
to address the internal turmoil and chaos that so many people are trying to stuff down, because when we stuff those things down, that that negative force goes into liver and other organ functions, causing it to not function, and then creating all of these crazy things like cancer and fibroids. I remember I went to South Korea, and they went to a traditional Korean hospital about my fibroids and just kind of really understanding. And she said, "Oh, you have dragon fire liver. You've been holding on to too much resentment. You have to have a more practical way of getting this energy out of your body, because when your liver doesn't function, it doesn't detox your body of the extra estrogen, and that extra estrogen is what's creating fibroids." And I know we'll talk about this later, but how many times have we seen all of these women stepping up and saying, "I have 20 pounds of fibroids. I had 15 pounds removed by a C-section. I've not even had a kid yet, and I have a whole C-section scar." This isn't normal. Like,
No.
we are normalizing things that should never be normalized. And so our goal with the company and with the way that we bring products to market is to make sure that we're competitive in spaces where those who are not familiar with the plant feel that it's safe for them to try. Businesses who aren't familiar with selling the plant feel that they have both the education and the access to finished goods for them to move things forward, so that we're able to be, to create this type of access to healing. That's really what it's all
Yeah.
about. We really want to be a pathway and a vessel for healing as a company.
Yeah, and I just want to like reiterate this. So again, the reason why I first connected with Q was learning her story, but learning about how she's like, we're not, this is not for you to go buy one of the products. This is about you actually now owning access to healing in this way, that bridge to healing like we've been talking about. And for me, I know that's something that I have wanted to do. I'm like, how else do I support my clients? Because if I'm going to be a good clinician, if I'm going to be a good therapist, that looks like making sure that all aspects of my client's life, because I come from the field of social work, right? So we don't just deal with the person, we deal with what we call person and environment. And so
Yeah.
sometimes the environment won't change, but you can. Sometimes, like, you can't get your partner to be less hectic. You can't get force your kids to be different. But what you can do is understand how to care for yourself. But
Yeah.
then we multiply that impact by you owning a business that is like where you learn and are educated on how like this works, how hemp support and hemp products can support people's whole lives. And then you multiply that impact for yourself and for the people around you. And
Yeah.
so for those of you who are business owners, especially therapists, wellness providers, or if this is something that you're just interested in, I would love for you to speak more about your academy, the CBDpreneur Academy, because I think that is an amazing way for somebody to just even get started without knowing anything about how any of this works.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that I really appreciate is the work that you do to really destigmatize and normalize conversations around trauma. Because what most people don't realize is that trauma does live in our bodies.
Yes.
And having access to these types of products and making these products available, whether you are a wellness practitioner on the mental health side, or whether you are a beauty brand that sells, lotions and cosmetics, or whether you are a massage therapist and you want
Mhm.
to amplify your client's experience with, the trauma that may be trapped in their lower back that you notice are the knots, or in their shoulders, etc. You want to be able to provide that healing to people, and you don't know how. So, we all know that the cannabis renaissance is very new. Over the last, I would say, 6 or so years since the Farm Bill of 2018, we've noticed an influx of products that are cannabinoid rich and that are hemp derived. Many of them that are promoted and marketed are psychoactive. But as I shared, WH Farms Co., being a non psychoactive company, is here for the full family. We want to make sure your dog is well. We want to make sure your babies are well, because, yes, we do have clients that are pediatricians, clients that are veterinarians, who would rather, especially our pediatrician clients, who think about how they're typically looking at kids and prescribing them Ritalin at the age of 7 and 8, something that they tend to stay on for 20 to 30 years. So think about how long they're putting that chemical in their body to
Wow.
regulate their nervous system, when they can try something that's natural, that's plant derived, that can give kids an opportunity to self-regulate in a way that they don't have to be conditioned to be addicted to a pill, but rather they are reintroduced to the botanical wisdom from the earth. And so we have been selling these products commercially to hundreds of businesses over the last few years, not just in the United States, but abroad. And we also have been working with federal agencies and state agencies to really destigmatize the plant and make this access to medicinal healing more accessible. And so we understand that it's a quite nuanced space. You know, we've been kicked out of banks, we've had our ads taken down, we've had, I mean,
Wow.
now we've had some challenges with Instagram this evening as a result of some of those
Right.
of those issues. And so as a company, we've been able to overcome those challenges because we are deeply educated, deeply aware, and also in the front end or pioneering this space so that we can normalize it and make it more accessible for other businesses. And so we've actually taken the data and the knowledge and partnered even with other experts, Ivy League trained professionals and marketing mavens and individuals who know so much about how to bring this information online and mainstream. And we put it together in an on demand academy. It's called the CBDpreneur Academy. And it's for people who want to expand their product lines or launch a product line, offering these products to people. Because let's say, you know, I tell people all the time, none of us have been right since COVID, right? But now
Mhm.
I'm realizing that none of us probably even feel better since hell last week when we noticed gas go up. Now we can't go
Hello.
anywhere on a plane without the plane tickets being double the price. We're in a war that we don't quite understand. Like all of these things are happening that's creating discomfort, and we are becoming aware of how much we need something to bring a spa experience into our own home. That's what our products do. But as a business, you also need to be educated on how to market, grow, and expand so that you can be that multi six figure, multi seven figure, multi eight figure business that you desire to be. As a company, we were able to reach six figures in less than 4 months. Guys, people are stressed out. They are looking for ways to get access to products that allow them to not have to go and spend money on a spa treatment, but rather they can use something that they can immediately use right after the shower when they wake up in the morning that helps them with insomnia relief, that helps them with the inflammation that comes from just a triggered nervous system and all of those things. And so that's what the Academy does. It's a 6 week program. It is on demand. It gives an opportunity for businesses and brands, entrepreneurs who are interested in joining this industry to really understand what it takes, to understand how to navigate the nuances with the FCC, with federal, with the FDA, with the federal, the FDIC, all of the various federal agencies. And fortunately, the current administration has recently rescheduled cannabis, so there will be easier pastures and pathways as we move forward. But this isn't an industry that you want to get into without guidance, without expert knowledge and wisdom. And so, as a company, we've kind of gone through over the last 5 years so many things that equip us to be able to help really provide business owners with an opportunity to understand. And so, that's what we do through the Academy. But in addition to education, we also provide access to small batch manufacturing, because now as we've scaled as a company, in order to white label with us and certainly to private label, you're looking at a 10,000 unit minimum outside of the academy. But within the academy, if you are one of our academy participants, you're able to access white labeling with just 100 and access just 100 units, right? So that gives you the opportunity to not have to start with thousands of units in your garage, but just 100, so that you can then say, I can place this on my website, I can sell this on my live, I can put this in the store, or I can go to local stores in the community and put it on their shelves under my brand name, and really again help us reach the vision of helping other people by spreading the plant medicinal magic of hemp worldwide. And that low MOQ is only available through our academy program.
Yeah. So I just want to reiterate everything that you said again, like, because all of that was so important. So with through WH Farms Co, they have an academy, which really I feel like, and I haven't asked you about this, but I feel like this could be a college course because of how much information is in it.
It's a lot. Yeah.
You're learning about like she said, how to overcome all the federal like blockades and understanding the guidelines and the lingo. So and you're understanding more about hemp and topical wellness in general. You're also learning how to assess risk, raise capital. I don't think y'all understand. So you're going to learn, even whether you've started a business before or not, you're learning the regulations of being in this industry.
Yeah.
You're also learning how to become a better entrepreneur. This is a course on how to support your entrepreneurial work, how to market better, how to market in alignment, so that way you don't get blocked off of these platforms, overcoming some of the payer blockades connected to like this industry, right? And then going through the program is one thing, but for those of y'all who have done like business, especially product business, you understand that when you have to order things, you're not getting like you said, you're not getting less
That's
than 1,000.
5,000. Yeah.
Having to like I've had to order things before for previous products, and it's such a hassle, especially when you're like, let me just start. And so you get access to low MOQ, like you don't have to buy 1,000, 5,000 of whatever products you want to sell through them. You get access to small batches, and so you
Yeah.
can just begin to test and grow, implement the things that work inside of the academy that are tested and proven, and then multiply from there.
Yeah.
I don't know, if you mentioned this already, but what do they get if they sign up during this series that I feel like is really the thing for me?
Yeah, no. So, first of all, guys, there's a QR code at the top of the screen that you're able to go to. It takes you directly to the website. And you get a chance to actually register so that you can be the first to know when we launch. Because for the first 15 that actually register for the academy, you not only get the actual access to all of these, I mean, 6 weeks of actual live, on demand training, but you have archive of over 30 videos that teach you everything from pet wellness all the way to people wellness as it relates to how this plant operates. You get a one-on-one strategy call with yours truly. And the reason why that's so valuable is because as a company, as a woman-owned cannabis brand, as a cannabis cultivator, so I'm plant touching, and what that means is I am highly restricted by the federal government. I mean, I have to go through high regulations to get everything done. We've been able to raise close to $1 million in non-dilutive capital. We are backed by SBA and some phenomenal, agencies that, again, my counterparts on the psychoactive side don't have access to. And so, what I've learned in this journey, I'm able to help you understand how to utilize as it relates to your business. But more importantly, you get a starter kit. So you get actually 50 units of product that you can go out and sell to offset your investment into the academy, which, by the way, is less than $1,000. And so if you're selling 50 units of anything, you guys buy CBD gummies, you guys buy that stuff in the marketplace, you know it's not cheap. So you already know that that's giving you an immediate return on your investment, which is something that I'm really excited about because ultimately, guys, this live series is really about us having some real talk about us wrapping our arms around each other in a very tangible way. We talk about how there are over 300,000 women of color specifically, who have been pushed out of the workforce since this administration has started. We think about how many women are the actual backbone and the foundation for their households. And even in communities where that may not be normalized and that may not be the gripe, what I see online all the time is everybody is looking for a way to reset their nervous system.
Yeah.
People are looking for a way to create ease in their lives. If you can be the solution to their issues, if you can do so in a way that allows you to bring plant medicine to the forefront, again, things that our ancestors knew. Our ancestors did not go to a pharmacy when they needed something, they went to the farm.
Come
They went to
on.
the fields. They went and they made those salves and they made those concoctions and they made those teas so that they could reset. The Bible said that God gave us the earth and the fullness thereof. This is a part of the fullness that was provided to us, that He made no mistakes when these actual plants were originated. The only mistake that's been made, in my opinion, is man's opinion of these plants, man's
Mm.
manipulation of these plants. But when we use them by resurrecting the plant botanical wisdom that's available, then we have an opportunity to really bring back into conversation what we have access to that can create healing. And we're not going to get off of this live before we start talking about your deconstruction. So I don't want you to rush off, Miss Lady, because
No,
the
but I
people
was
here want to talk about it.
I know, but I just want to say this, and honestly, like I was getting emotional as you were speaking. And for those of y'all who know me, I'm not a super emotional person in that way. But for one, if I'm being, let's just get to the vulnerable part of this. I have had such a rough week, and it's only Wednesday. In the work environment, in my personal work environment, outside of being the founder of Soleil Therapy and Wellness, I also work a 9 to 5 job because why bills got to get paid. But all that to say, when you talked about, you took the words right out of my mouth, and we talk about how aligned we are all the time.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about the Black women, the 300,000 Black women that have been kicked out of the job market, right? What's important for me about that is, yes, we're talking about healing and all of that, but a lot of us need to protect ourselves. And what I mean by that is having a high demand business, right? Not something that, this ain't was Avon and Mary Kay, like those kind of like things that you don't know if you're going to get a return on and what have you. Like you are, for, like you said, under $1,000, helping someone build an entire business from scratch, eliminating all of the mistakes that you had to make, eliminating all of the red tape that you went through in order to build your multi 6-figure business. Like, ladies, if you're
We
listening
up
to
there
me,
now. We 7 now, but go
oh,
ahead.
sorry, my bad. Hello, multi-million dollar business. Like what I'm saying is, this is not just a opportunity for you to like do something cool. This is a ticket to freedom. We don't know what's going to happen. Like I'm in a space right now with my job where like a part of me feels like God is like, get out. Like you need to trust the work that you have done. But a lot of us are on pins and needles with these jobs. You need to protect yourself by creating a high demand business, period. And
Yeah.
this isn't like these other people giving you 3,000, and I've done it. God, $10,000 courses that they barely even give you any information, and you walk away with more debt than you have information. Like this is pretty much done for you. You get the kit, you get the information, you understand the how to, again, overcome all of the federal guidelines and things like that, and then you get to have a ticket to your own freedom and stability instead of us relying on these platforms. People are looking for
Yeah.
this kind of support and help, and you can get in on the front end. We had I live in Atlanta, for those of y'all who don't know, we had Pastor Jamal Bryant about to build a whole
Farm.
farm.
Yep.
Why would somebody do that, right?
Yep.
Because they know that this industry, you are at the best time. Like they talk about AI, you are at the best time
100.
to get in on something like this and to be
It's,
connected to such a groundbreaking
yeah.
industry and work.
It's slated to be close to $100 billion industry within the next 5 years. And
Wow.
the reason why is because, and again, let's look at what happened in November. In order to reopen the federal government, Mitch McConnell brought forth a bill that banned psychoactive hemp, right? But then President Trump came right behind him and made a declaration to explore the medicinal benefits that were
Mm-hmm.
now undeniable of hemp derived CBD. So much so that they're making it available for our seniors through Medicaid. Guys, do
Mm-hmm.
you know how many people in the world are looking for ease, looking for anxiety, relief? And not to say and make claims, because we don't make claims, dear FDA, we don't make claims, but these are just testimonials that we've
Right.
seen of people who have gone from, their kids having seizures and rubbing oil on them and seeing the calm happen within moments. Or you even talk about the
Yes.
scrub and how you use that to help reset your and really ease your anxiety. I went through some tumultuous seasons, especially as of recently building this business, and while I was also exiting out of an emotionally abusive marriage where I was hospitalized multiple times. I remember having multiple back-to-back panic attacks. I was on a Zoom webinar once. Thank God I was on a webinar with people who were inside of the company where I fainted 3 times
Wow.
back to back to back while in the webinar because I was so overstimulated due to my environment. If it wasn't for me taking this product on a daily basis, I wouldn't have been able to really be able to communicate to medical professionals exactly where the source of it was, because I had already gone through my trauma healing from my childhood trauma, but then walked into an environment where other people's trauma, I really couldn't manage it. And so as a result, I had to constantly say, listen, this is re-triggering things. I don't need this type of environment. My body was saying, listen, we're going to have to make some hard decisions. And unfortunately, a part of that I was able to continue to maintain my stability because of this plant medicine. When I had my C-section and had those 15 fibroids removed, 15 pounds of fibroids removed, I didn't take the pain medication that was provided from the doctors when I was in the hospital recovering. I used our therapeutic balm. I used our tincture to deal with the pain management because that's the power of plant medicine. And so there are hundreds of millions of people who are looking for access to plant-based effective performance consumer goods. And so we do definitely empower businesses and business owners to take control of their own economics, their own household economics, and move this industry forward with us by being those wellness entrepreneurs who help us reach our vision of spreading the plant medicinal value of hemp worldwide. And so we're very excited about that.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're going to talk a little bit more next week about what all this stuff looks like, but I did want to say, to honor us talking about my deconstruction journey, for me, I think like having conversations like this is part of that, because for a long time there were things that I knew, there were things that I wanted to try, there was things I wanted to do, but I either didn't do it because of what I was taught in the church was right and proper, or
Yeah,
I did it in secret. Cause so can
right.
we be honest, right?
We
Like
are.
I didn't tell anybody that I was, trying CBD products. I just knew I needed help.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And so sometimes like we have to start questioning, I'm gonna say this because a lot of people, I've been getting a lot of accusations on the internet about like, you were never a Christian, you were never saved, you were never, all that
the
stuff.
judgment, no judgment, people.
It would be amazing. Like you would be amazed, like the comments that I got. And I was talking to a friend about this a couple of days ago, and I was like, I feel like I am at the center of other people's projections right
Of
now. Like
course.
I am their canvas for their protections and their fears of what it looks like for them to question, for them to doubt, for them to even have autonomy over their own thinking and their bodies. And so that has been one of the eye-opening experiences in me, being honest about the fact that I'm in a place where I am questioning, I am searching, I am seeking. But I think a lot of people assume that deconstruction means that you are falling away. Oh, this is another thing. I've been at the center of a lot of prophecy. Like, the Bible said there will be a great falling away. You're part of that. I'm like, well, I didn't know I was going to be part of end time prophecy, but okay, that's the first. But I think some people assume that you are deconstructing to walk away, when some of us are deconstructing to find God. And that's the difference. Some of you worship the projection of your pastor's imagination. I'm just going to say it. Some of y'all are actually worshiping, like we say, in the Bible talks about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Some of y'all are worshiping the God of Fannie Lou, who has known nothing but trauma, who has known nothing but,
Jesus.
who doesn't study the word, but hung on to everything that their pastor said, who also didn't go to school. Like some of your perspectives about God are actually a copy and paste of what someone else told you. And some of us are not okay with that.
Yeah.
Some
You
of
know,
us don't want that.
I love what you said about being the focus of other people's projection. One of the things that I think is powerful about owning your curiosity and your spiritual relationship, and even your pathway to really find a more intimate connection and relationship with God, is that when you are really centered in God given wisdom and knowledge, it's very hard for you to look out more than you look in.
Yeah.
Like we have to get to a place where we understand that God seeks to occupy the world within us. The kingdom of God is supposed to be within us. The kingdom of heaven is supposed to be within us. And that being within us then helps to dictate. You talked earlier about some of the external environments and the connections that we make. All we can control are our decisions. God didn't give us dominion over another person's sin, right? Like that is really their journey. And I think that in a lot of ways, we tend to allow religion to cost us what our true perspective should be as it relates to relationship. And
Yeah.
relationship is an internal connection. And what I love about my heavenly Father is that he adores my curiosity. He
Ooh.
adores my nature to desire and to seek him on a deeper level. He adores my willingness to put love and charity and goodwill above judgment and criticism, and thinking that he needs me to get other people under control. He
Yeah.
doesn't need me to do anything. As a matter of fact, the scripture tells me to cast my cares
Come on.
because he cares for me. So why would I then carry the burden of anybody else when he's given me the ability to travel through this life lightly?
Yeah.
That's why I keep saying, and going back to this plant, this is not the way he intended for us to live. This was not what was intended. We are out of whack on so many levels. And we think that it's a plant that's creating the disconnect, but it's really perspective that's creating
Mm.
the disconnect. It's the limitation of the framework that we give ourselves to think and to exist and to be. Like it has nothing to do with your decision or my decision, because God got us. I ain't ever got to be on nobody's mind because I'm on my Father's mind at all times. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you overwhelm yourself with trying to manage and micromanage and break down and psychoanalyze other people based on who you think they should be, you take your eyes off of all of the nooks and crannies that God wants to show you about yourself, so
Yeah.
that he can continue to mold you and shape you in his image so you can be his vessel. He cannot be the agent of light and love and then for everybody to have the feeling that they have the right to cast any sort of raft on other people. Now, there are people that God has given stewardship to pastor and to lead and to minister. But you got to be very careful because gifts don't come lightly. And
Hello.
if you haven't gone through the warfare and the turmoil that it takes to be able to really cultivate and steward gifts, don't be so quick to think you have it. It's a very dangerous and thin line, because what I love about the scripture, it says that he's not a man that he shall be mocked. And so
Mhm.
I'm very, a part of the reason why people say, why don't you sell psychoactive? God gave me this vision. And because God gave me this vision, I am going to honor it and steward it in a way that God gets the glory from it. And what I know that gives glory to God is when we connect people back to the botanical wisdom that he intended, not the manipulated use that has come about from man's involvement. And that's the same thing with the church. It's manipulated use. And when we get out of the habit of recognizing and normalizing manipulation, we can get back to the basics of wisdom. How can we be on God's assignment but pull people down?
Come
How
on.
can we not honor those who are silently suffering with mental health challenges that they can't even articulate if we can't lead with God's love and compassion? Why are we so mean? Why are we so nasty? Why are we so entitled to bring opinions about people to the forefront instead of working on ourselves so that we can expand our capacity to create space for God's people and his unique design of those people? We really have a humanity issue, and that comes from having a perspective issue, because we do spend more time looking out than we do looking in.
That was the benediction right there. That felt like, honestly, Nicole, like that felt like a warm hug to me. So thank you. Because again, I had to decide to be like, okay, Vernique, you can't care. And the thing is, I love people so much. And it was important for me to be honest about where I was because I take the position that I've had in some people's lives and the thought leadership and even the teaching gift that I have had in people's lives. And I wanted to be a good steward of that. And so to be at the harsh end of people just being upset when again like you mentioned, like first of all, your work out your soul salvation with fear and trembling. There's no need for you to try and regulate anybody else's, right? Like that is not evangelism. It is actually just you being mean,
Yeah.
and it's not helpful. You're not being a light.
Yeah.
Nobody's attracted to that.
Yep.
People are seeing in the comments and like, this is why I don't believe, this is why, for people
This
who are,
is why I don't go to church.
this is why, and like while I have
Well,
had
let me say
both,
that this is what they're saying. I go to church. Shout out to Elevation. Love my church. Go ahead.
I love that. I don't go to church. I don't go to church frequently. I do love Change Church. So me and my partner, we watch online and we'll go sometimes for
Hmm.
sure. But yeah, like I think that hearing you say that was just so, it mattered to me, even if it didn't resonate with anybody else. But I do think that it is something that we need to hear. Like we have to focus on what God is doing. Like God don't need little man soldiers.
He does not.
He
He does
doesn't need,
not.
he's big enough. He doesn't need you to condemn anybody
As a
because
matter of
he,
fact, stop tainting the formula with your wicked ways, because he has a formula that has worked from the beginning of time.
yeah,
That's leading with love.
that's
He
good.
has a formula. The Bible says that from the abundance of the heart, the mouth
Well,
speaketh.
sweet.
You got to be able to know that if everything that comes out of your mouth is irritated and nasty and all of the things, then deal with your heart condition before you then put the label of Christian on your behavior, because then you confuse those who are looking for light and they're not finding it with the
Yeah,
darkness that you're spreading. So I'm very sensitive to not, I don't really talk a lot about my faith, even though I have deep spiritual connection. I pray frequently and fervently. I am very much so a spirit led woman. I am very serious about my relationship with God. I don't disrespect him on any level. I wasn't raised to, I never will. And constantly, I am edifying my walk, but that's nobody's business. And I make that very clear. Like, that's just nobody's business. And if it becomes your business, then you're out of order, because we're good. You're out
right.
of place. And I think that that's something that I hope that you feel emboldened to, have that level of posture, because you got to know when it's okay for you to be a steward and an example while also not needing external validation in order to
Mhm.
feel like you're being a steward and an example.
That's good. Thank you so much. Y'all, this was such an amazing conversation. First of all, if you are still watching, I need you to take out your phone, scan the QR code, or screenshot the screen right now. Screenshot it. It'll save to your photos, and you can still tab and access the academy and learn exactly when it drops. It is under $1,000 to join, to start your own, to become a CBDpreneur, to become a wellness entrepreneur, and it's honestly the best investment in your future and in your financial security that you can make. But then you're also having multiple levels of impact in people's lives, and
Yeah.
apparently dogs and babies too. So and the first 15 people that are on the list will have access to the first 15 people will have access to a strategy session with Nicole herself.
Yeah.
And that goes a long way. Like if you've been touched by this conversation one on one, Nicole is just, her mind, the way your mind works is incredible. And again,
That's my spiciness. That's my neuro
yeah,
spiciness, and they're activated.
right. And that's what we need in the world, right? So the multi-million dollar business teaching you, that's where you need to be. So any final closing thoughts? We're gonna be back next Wednesday. So
Yes.
next Wednesday, 8 o'clock for the month of May. It's us together.
Yes. I want to just end this with, first of all, gratitude. Gratitude to everyone who gave us patience as we dealt with our tech issues. Gratitude to you, Vernique, for really opening up the space for this conversation as a licensed clinician, really giving depth, definition, and understanding of what mental health is, and destigmatizing these conversations and creating a safe space for me to share my journey as someone who's been diagnosed with CPTSD, something that I'm totally not ashamed of, especially because God has given me the opportunity to create this business as a pathway to really help others. And I want to encourage people, like she said, take a snapshot, go to the QR code, sign up to become first in line so that you're able to be one of the first 15 to be able to activate the ability to get that launch kit with the 50 units of products, as well as that one-on-one call with me. And I encourage everyone, since this is Mental Health Awareness Month, we're just going to ask you from this Wednesday to next Wednesday, practice kindness,
Please.
intentional kindness. Every time your nature rises to be negative, dark, mean, nasty, subdue it, right? And choose kindness. We need to be able to demonstrate kindness to others. So we definitely want to say that. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. We know it's late. We really appreciate you rocking out with us. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank y'all so much. We will see you next Wednesday. Be kind and remember to pour into yourself. All right. Good night,
Bye,
guys.
guys.